It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, brought to you by the Up On Game Podcast Network. That one stumbled out of my mouth for a little bit, but it's the guys. It's your boy James Jackson, Jake Galley, Kyle Sirik, and Stat Matt Robinson. We're now officially in the NFL offseason. Football's over. I think I saw the calendar today. What was it? 204 days or something like that?
Sounds about right.
Until the start of the NFL season. It's going to be a long journey, gentlemen.
You know what's crazy, and I think we might talk about it a little later, is that usually we're like, we're heading to the part of the year where it's only baseball. Oh, really? How you like nothing? How you like a whole bunch of nothing now?
Summer's going to be brutal. So give us another last dance. Drop another documentary.
It will. Trust me.
We need something to happen. But it's the NFL offseason because not only did the Rams win the Super Bowl, but Jake's ticket hit. So let's just plug the best bets for a second because that's a big one for you. Take your victory lap, sir.
Well, what's crazy is, I actually put real life money on the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Ended up being 50 to win 800. I hedged like a few times against the Rams just to protect myself along the way. So I take back a little less than that. But remember, we also did like our best NFL bets at the start of the year. I gave out Rams to win the NFC plus 850. That one came home too. So just a good year. I didn't really have actually like in terms of long-term bets. I usually have more. But I can't complain, man.
How about that one, man?
We'll take it. It's on to next year. Someone told me the Eagles are winning next year. That's what I heard. I have that on good authority.
And this is what happens when you let Jake go. Just a little bit too far. But we got to break down that Super Bowl that just happened. The Rams. I think the best way for us to go about this is really just like let the stats kind of take us through the game, right? Like how the stats really shape the Super Bowl. So the first way like we can go about it is Joe Burrow. It says in the script only went for 263 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. At the end of the day, it was not enough. Like we said, like Joe Burrow needed to have this big game, he needed to overcome his offensive line. And the last play of the game is a microcosm of that. He just couldn't.
It was we said what 250, 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Or one interception.
One interception.
And realistically, Mixon throws Higgins that touchdown, but that's probably more times than not you can count that as a passing touchdown going to be Joe Burrow's touchdown. So he kind of did his part. We'll get into it. It wasn't enough, as we had talked about earlier.
It's tough. It's funny. Everything comes full circle. Not when we were talking the draft, no one was thinking Bengals Super Bowl contender, but it was O-line versus wide receiver. What do you do? And on top of that, a reason the stats were there, he's under constant pressure. Sacked 7 times, probably under pressure another 10 times, just forcing. Yeah,
the Rams had a pass rush win rate of 82%.
On brand.
Which is the highest ridiculous. Of any team this entire season in any game. Obviously, the Bengals don't regret not taking Penei Sewell.
Right.
Because they made the Super Bowl tied for their best season in the history of their franchise. So it's... The game kind of we kept saying on this podcast, every week, at some point the O-line's going to break. At some point the O-line's going to break.
And it did.
And it did.
At the very last second.
Because they had to play Aaron Donald.
I agree with you. They might not regret not taking Penei Sewell, but this is how you end up in an Andrew Luck-esque situation. Joe Burrow just endured one of the most sack seasons. I don't know. I think maybe 4th most in a season, including playoffs. He's been sacked a ton. You now have to get your next whatever you fill in for left tackle or right tackle or whatever you're going to attack on your offensive line. You have to get it right. You can't miss on the pick. You cannot miss on the signing because now you're 2-3 years in the hole of Joe Burrow getting beat up. And that leads to, like I said, an Andrew Luck,
and
Carson Wentz situation.
This is the best chance to win when you're paying your star quarterback a rookie contract.
But here's what they did is they put themselves ahead of the 8 ball for their own rebuilding schedule. Look what they got out in front of. They got the best quarterback they were going to get up until now. They got the best probably wide receiver that they're going to get up until now. And now what you do when you go into these drafts that don't have these crazy high projected skill players is I go get my offensive lineman, do what the Dallas Cowboys did a couple of years ago. We may just go 5 straight drafts of just going all linemen, and because our core is still young. So I think it's good, and they all performed when they should. Like Joe Burrow hit, like the players performed. T. Higgins had his big game, 2 touchdowns. He hit on the big Jamar Chase play, over Jalen Ramsey, and then Joe Burrow doesn't throw an interception. And even the non-T. Higgins Jamar Chase targets go 4. He goes 14 of 18 for 80 yards and no TDs to them as well. So still able to spread the ball and find other receivers. It's just, at the end of the day, the well broke, or the dam broke. His offensive line broke, and Aaron Donald got through.
And remember another thing we talked about. You mentioned the wide receivers. So it was 14 of 18, but 80 yards, 0 touchdowns on 14 receptions.
To his non big targets.
4.5 yards per attempt.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So
check down.
So remember, we had said you could make an argument the Bengals actually have better weapons through and through than the Rams. And when you look on the other side, you have Odell Beckham Jr., who, James, you and I, maybe Kyle too, need to take Matt, I'm sorry, you're the only one left out of this. Need to take a victory lap because Odell Beckham showed up once again in a massive moment. Unfortunately, he has that ACL tear, but all the Rams wide receivers had at least 2 catches and at minimum 4 targets, all of them.
Yeah.
So they were able to kind of step up and show their depth, and that was, I think, another really big swing in the game.
And this was a Rams offense that could not run the ball to save their lives.
Yeah, nothing.
So when I was screaming at the TV, what is McVay doing? He kept just running into the line every single down until the final drive, really. They had 10 carries for 21 yards, and they hadn't had a positive rush play until very near the very end.
The very first drive of the game, they're short or third and medium, and they run the ball. And I'm like, what is going on? We're already starting the questionable play calling. I didn't understand.
Well, that was a 3rd and long. I think they were just looking to punt there.
I understand, but I have the offense to me at least go and try.
I think it was 3rd and 17 though.
Was it really? Was it really? Because I remember questioning the run so much. I don't know if I would.
If we're talking about the same play, regardless, though, neither team could run the ball. I would just going out on a limb. I would be pretty sure and pretty certain saying this was the worst rushing performance on both sides of the ball in any Super Bowl
Mixon did decent.
Ever. Not really.
I lost my bet.
Wasn't Akers still the leading rusher of the game?
No. Mixon had 71 yards.
Did he really?
Yeah.
So I must have missed that.
Yeah,
point.
He had 15 for 72. Akers had 13 for 21. Someone the next day was like, Cam Akers is still working his way to get out of the Super Bowl. So 1.9 yards.
The Bengals had 4 rushing yards per game or per carry, and the Rams had 1.9. That's ridiculous. But I think overall, going back to the game, going back to the Odell Beckham point, this game happened exactly pretty much how it should have. The Rams were the more talented team. They could abuse more weaknesses of the Bengals, and they did just that, right? And I would even argue if Odell doesn't go down, because he was the mismatch guy. You could see that in the first half. I know it was only 2 catches, but he was the mismatch guy. He was they can even focus Cooper Kupp. Odell's going to go off. And he was. I think if he doesn't get hurt, they probably win that game by double digits. I remember all around, they were just better.
Later in the game, Stafford threw a pass to Van Jefferson. He tried to one-hand it. And it was clear, that's where they need Odell. Odell, and he just bounced off his hand because Van Jefferson isn't Odell Beckham.
And I said right when Odell went down, I was like, it was one play went by. And my friend Chuck actually made fun of me when I said it because I was like, this offense looks a lot different when Odell's not on the field. He's like, there's one play. How did you see that? But I was like, no, just look at the makeup of it. Because now all of a sudden it's like Cooper Kupp, a deep threat of Van Jefferson, and what else? What else is going on?
Skoranek or whoever is running around that.
And I'm very much okay with Cooper Kupp getting the Super Bowl MVP. I think the stats are going to back it up. That's what you're going to be able to look back on and say he read the.
I still think Aaron. I was more upset at the moment.
Okay,
but here's
do you know how it works? Let me interject real quick because I think this is messed up. The way the Super Bowl MVP voting works is all the guys have to have their ballot in by the 2-minute warning. True story.
I mean,
true story. That's how it works. Like, what if the game goes overtime? Right? Like, this is how it goes. It's weird.
And that's I guess even more to that logic. I guess it's going to have to go to Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, the worst passer rating of any Super Bowl MVP ever.
That sure, but listen, like. Aaron Donald completely like put his stamps all over that game. And there was a moment like that the switch flipped and he understood that I need to go and win this game. I don't know if it was the scrimmage on the sideline. I don't know if it was when he saw the Rams try the Philly special and it go completely awry. But there was a point where Aaron Donald said like the offense is sputtering again, like they've done for the past 2 games. They're sputtering again. And he didn't wait until deep in the game to start to just completely put it in the defensive favor, and that's what like helped the Rams. That's not going to show up on paper, but that's what Aaron Donald did. I could see him like physically lock in and take that game over. So like Cooper Kupp's going to take the hardware home, but you could see Aaron Donald like
to me the most underrated sequence of the game is so first play of the second half, T. Higgins touchdown. Then like 2 plays later, bounces off Skoranic's hands and it's intercepted. If the Bengals score a touchdown there, I think the Rams are just completely floundering. And Donald had 2 sacks, once on like when the skirmish happened, and the second was on like a 3rd and 3, or 2nd and 3 that made it like 3rd and 11. And holding them to a field goal there, if they don't do that, I think they lose. And I know the play at the end of the game and the 2 plays at the end of the game, because of stopping P. Ryan and the pressure that forced the game to be in completion.
Why is P. Ryan in, by the way? That's another story.
But like
something else to get into.
Those are the 3 biggest plays of the game to me. You could obviously you can make an argument for the Kupp touchdown against Apple, but I wanted to see. I actually had a tweet ready to put up for our thing about Aaron Donald Super Bowl MVP stat, and they said Cooper Kupp. I was like, oh crap, I need to
go get a Cooper Kupp.
Like, it was just someone of that caliber in NFL history deserved that award. And I'm not saying Cooper Kupp didn't. I was just kind of bummed in the moment.
Okay. There was a heated debate going around. Not even the one that we're going to get to later. This one actually just popped up into my head. But does this Super Bowl ring put Aaron Donald into Lawrence Taylor air?
Yes.
He's the best defensive lineman of all time.
Tackle.
I think I'm ready to say lineman. Like he is able to do pretty consistently.
My dad's going to fight you about Reggie White.
I'm an Eagles
fan.
So
you have him below Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor. Don't tell me you have him above Lawrence Taylor.
Well, but here's the thing about Reggie White is that and he and Aaron Donald are kind of the same in this regard, where they can go inside or outside, whereas Lawrence Taylor, as dominant as them, he only really he's more of a linebacker edge rusher, like strictly coming off the edge, versus a guy like Reggie White or a guy like Aaron Donald, which what makes him so special. You know, Bruce Allen I know is up there in terms of sacks too, but like those 2 guys. Anywhere
Bruce
you
Smith.
Put them is say again who?
Bruce Smith.
Bruce Smith. I'm sorry. Bruce Smith. Anywhere you put those guys on the defensive line, it's going to be a mismatch. So I mean that's kind of an understatement. But yeah, I'm ready to say it. I'm ready. Like what?
I'm ready to put him in that tier. I don't know if
he's in that tier.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can be definitively better than Lawrence Taylor, especially because we didn't like really watch him play. Like the people who really watch him play is like, man, like it's undisputable. He's a bit like if Bill Belichick won't even have the discussion. If you ask him who the best defensive player, he's like, it's Lawrence Taylor. It's like how dare you?
Well, that's the same reason I'm saying Aaron Donald. Yeah, I mean, who's going to check me?
That's true. Like the things that I've seen, but you know, I think watching him take over, like it's so hard for a defensive lineman, a defensive tackle to like noticeably impact a game and take over a game. And I watched Aaron Donald doing it in the Super Bowl. I don't know if I've ever seen a defensive tackle do that in a stage like that.
Ridiculous.
Like I've never watched it.
7 straight All-Pros, that doesn't happen in any position. I mean, despite defensive tackle, which is a hard position to stand out at.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the hardest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Another Aaron Donald thing is I love the movies making right now, where he's like saying he might retire. The reports are coming out because he needs to get paid more money. I mean, he's the 8th highest paid defensive tackle, and he's probably the best defensive lineman in the last 25, 30 years.
He's watching a lot of big contracts go around him. Yeah. He's watching a lot of people make a lot of money on that team.
I don't think he retires, but I love the power move because he still has 3 years left on his deal.
And at minimum, all it gets him is a free training camp. He doesn't have to go into training camp. That's still a win if it all resolves how it is now.
One of those teammates who has a lot of money around him is one Matt Stafford, who is the center of a very hot debate that we absolutely have to have. Actually, Uncle Richard Sherman brought it up. So we're going to start with his quote. He first goes in to Matthew Stafford and says there's no measuring stick that makes Matthew Stafford a Hall of Famer. except for being in the most passer-happy offense in the last decade of the NFL. And then doubles down with it with the stats, which is what we appreciate of the podcast. He goes to say no all-decade team, no all-pro, no MVP, only one Pro Bowl, not even an MVP of the Super Bowl, ... never considered the best in any season that he played. And think of the quarterbacks that he has to play in his era. We don't have to list them.
I just have a quick conspiracy theory. I think this is like a subtweet about Russell Wilson because he's still mad about the interception.
That's pretty, Matt.
That's pretty conspiracy.
Hole.
I don't even
that's
like.
Rabbit hole.
I'm not even.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I actually like that. I like that. I see it.
Anyway, I really don't.
But we're not to hate on Matt Stafford.
We're not going to interject this with that. we're not.
I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want to have a discussion.
It's an angle to
it. Listen. The discussion we need to have right now is Richard Sherman right? Is Matthew Stafford not a Hall of Famer, or do you think Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Famer?
If he were to retire right now, I don't think Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Famer. No. The difference is that we need to raise the bar on this. Now the league has changed. Right, a bunch of these quarterbacks now. Last year, the debate was Phillip Rivers, right? Well, you look back at it. There's only been 27 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. There's 3 you can really chalk in now: Kurt Warner, Peyton.
Warner's in.
Is he in officially? Yeah. So then you have Brady.
Peyton's in.
Brady, Ben, and Eli. You kind of have to put in, but even Eli was he's going to get in though.
I'm so anti.
Matt talking him in. He's going to get in.
He's in.
But that's the barometer.
This is what we need to do. We need to raise the standards. It's only really been 4 or 5 guys every decade that comes out. And now the way the league is going, Matthew Stafford is stuck between these generations. The Peyton and the Brady's and the Ben was before him, and now you have the Mahomes and all these guys right after him. So I don't think you could say it. And I understand he's going to probably finish like top 7, top 6 all time in passing yards. Okay. Well, Phillip Rivers, Rivers is too.
There's a case to be made for
the Hall of Fame is not the quarterback Hall of Fame. Right?
There's a better case for Phillip Rivers than Stafford.
Right.
And I wouldn't put Rivers in.
Now, with that being said, I said I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he will be. I think he needs 1 or 2 more good seasons, maybe 1 more Super Bowl appearance. I don't even think he needs to win a Super Bowl. And he's in, no doubt, because the stats are just going to be there. But in the fact that Eli Manning has had a 500 regular season win-loss and he's going to get in, Matthew Stafford is under that. He's like 46%.
It's on the Lions.
That's fine.
If he was on a competent team, he'd be a 5. Like if you switched his and Aaron Rodgers' career, what do you think would be their accolades? Because I'm going to tell you,
I don't think Matthew Stafford for the bulk of his career was anywhere near Aaron Rodgers.
Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers does, which is 1. And now they have.
He would not have an MVP if he was a Packer.
Right.
Okay.
But regardless, I think this is what I'm talking about, raising the standards.
How about this for standard? He is top 5. He's currently 4th in yards per game. More than Peyton Manning, more than Brady, more than Marino. You could pick a lot of quarterbacks.
And what was the stat?
Passing yards per game.
Okay.
Cool.
That's fine.
So
and Mahomes will be higher than him. Josh Allen will be higher than him. Joe Burrow will be higher than him. All these new guys are going to be higher than him. The game has changed. You need to up what you're looking at.
I'm done with yards as a barometer for the Hall of Fame.
What about
Joe Flacco has more career passing yards than Joe Montana?
So here's what I wanted to get into, because I was going to bring this argument up. He's going to be top 10 in yards, completions, and touchdowns, like bona fide. If he plays 3 more years, he's going to be top 10. He'll probably be closer to 5.
Because the Lions were losing by a lot, so he threw like 50 times.
I got a little scared, though, bringing this argument up when I'm looking at the list of all-time passing yard leaders. I'm scrolling down. There's a name at number 30. I think I could give you guys. I'm not going to let you guess because we'd be here all day. Number 30 in all-time passing yards in the NFL, Andy Dalton.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a little petrifying when you read that, but understand this. Like, we say the same thing about Mahomes when we were talking about the GOAT conversation. Matt Stafford is on the best team in the NFL right now. The team that just won the Super Bowl in the best passing offense in the league, one of them. Like, he's going to be here for 2-3 more years. If he wins another Super Bowl, we could stop this discussion.
Yeah.
No. Stafford could become a Hall of Famer. I don't think he is.
I think he's very close, is what I will rest on.
And I don't want to kind of crap on what Stafford did, because what Stafford did this playoffs is really incredible, because the Rams had no running game the entire postseason, and he led them to a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And so you obviously get credit for it. Eli did the same thing in 2011. He carried the 2011 Giants to the Super Bowl too. I don't think one really good playoff run deserves you for the Hall of Fame. But I also don't want to get bogged down into, he has to be this, otherwise why can't we just he was really good? Everything in sports now has to be all or nothing. Right. He's not the GOAT, so he's trash. And it's just no, Stafford's just been a good quarterback and a really good quarterback, and I'm happy for him that he finally won. But like if you just look down, so I broke down starting in 2011. I took out his first 2 years because I didn't think that was fair because he was going to an 0-16 team. So 2011 was Stafford's breakout year. So his passer rating ranking in the NFL, if you just average it out from 2011 to now, is 13th. Touchdowns, average it out, it's 10th. That's a really good quality to have in a quarterback. If for 11 years he's been consistently healthy for the most part, and he's been above average, especially on some really bad line teams. But he also had like Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
that's
tough.
It's not like he had absolutely no.
And was playing from behind.
But like at the same time, I get that the playing from behind.
Yeah, Golden Tate, who was a good player. Like he had years in Detroit where he had some decent weapons.
To be honest, Richard Sherman named a lot of accolades and a lot of stats that are on paper going to hold weight. But I think the part of like the Hall of Fame, and Kyle, you're right, like raising the standard, and the part that he hit is he was never considered the best like at his position in any time that he played.
I think this year was the first year he was really considered like top 5.
Like no all pros, not even a second team. You never even top 2 like in your position. So like you that really goes into consideration when you're talking about the Hall of Fame. Like for as many quarterbacks as we like don't know or don't think are as good as the quarterbacks we're watching now, at that time when they went in, they were considered the best in their time though.
Right.
That is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Never won a playoff game. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
That's what I'm saying. That one's tough. That one we contend. But the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you go, is also like there's more than just one ballot. Like you could end up being a Hall of Famer, not in your first, not in your second, not in your third, fourth, fifth. Like you could end up going in the latter years, maybe even of your life, end up going in and still end up being a Hall of Famer. I think everyone's talking about him being a Hall of Famer in the first ballot sense or the second ballot sense, which is fine. But Matt Stafford can either become a Hall of Famer with more years of play or just become a Hall of Famer with like statute of limitations of like, hey man, he's like 80, just put him in, man. He won a Super Bowl.
I like to think of it like this: when we've watched Matt Stafford play his whole career. We're all of football watching age when his career started to now. At no point did I thought, wow, I'm watching an all-time great.
Right.
That's true.
Which is game-winning drives like 2 years. But
Derek Carr does that same thing.
And they weren't even making the playoffs in those years.
Like those kind of game-winning drive things. That's like what Derek Carr does, and that's the same thing. As like I don't think I'm watching a Hall of Famer when I'm watching Derek Carr. Like the game-winning drives are cool. He's mad clutch in those moments, but like.
Here's all I'm going to say.
You can be a very good football player and not be a Hall of Famer. Right, that's okay.
And we can leave it at this. And Matt, I agree with you. I wish it was that way. I wish with everything in me that Eli Manning would not get into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I wish it. I do.
Except fate, buddy. That man going in. Exactly. That man was cold twice. So that man was cold twice in the playoffs.
You just have to look at it.
He is. So does Phillip Rivers. So like now, like I agree with you. It's like a low line type thing. Like if Eli Manning is getting in, that means you have to put these guys in.
You have to put Rivers in. You have to put Ryan in.
Exactly.
You have to put Stafford in.
To me, that's the line. And like every league has its player line. To me, the NBA it's Andre Iguodala. Like if you're putting it in there, like that's the Hall of Famer.
No. It would be way worse if Iggy made the Hall of Fame than Stafford.
Really?
Here's the thing. I think
way worse.
I think we're gonna agree that I think Matt Stafford gets in time. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer right now, but you have to look back at it. Going back to the 40s, when the first era of the 40s, that's when quarterbacks, or really the Hall of Fame players, were getting in from the 40s. There's only been 27 quarterbacks. It averages out to 4.5 per decade, right? Eli Manning's the 2010, he's already in. Or it's like you're only going to get 3 or 4 more, right? I think the most a decade. I think the most in a decade was like 6. I think 6 quarterbacks from the 80s got in, and that was the most in a single decade.
But you have to understand, Kyle, like they are going to put more quarterbacks in now because the passing game is more important.
And that is why I think they shouldn't. I think the standard is going to get raised. But you have to. We're going to have this conversation every year. We had it last year with Phillip Rivers. We're going to have it with Stafford. When Matt Ryan retires, people are going to talk about it.
And I understand you, but I think that's a good point. You have to also understand where the game is. Just like for the NBA, like 3-point shooting is more prevalent.
Right.
So the shooters are going to start.
I understand where the game is, but I don't think they're going to be putting in 9 quarterbacks into the Hall of Fame a decade. I think it's honestly, going to get raised.
I would like them not to. So, but with reality,
I
don't think they will.
It also chunks.
You can't put every quarterback in the league.
Not 5 quarterbacks like all like retire the same year. That's what we're all going to get. Like Drew Brees is going to get in 1 year.
It's the playing decades though. It's not just per. Look at Breeze gets in. Russell Wilson gets in probably. Aaron Rodgers gets in. Eli
if
gets
Russell Wilson doesn't get in, and
exactly.
Stafford and Eli
exactly. So there's a point where I think Stafford ends up in the Ryan and the Phillip Rivers debate, and now he has a ring in it. I think he gets in.
Yeah, but Ryan has
not
an MVP.
There yet. That's fine.
Phillip Rivers had 4 or 5 years ago, so top 5 quarterbacks, and with Matt Ryan.
And those
Stafford
are their debating points.
one.
And Stafford's debating point is the ring.
But that's where rings are done. Because if Joe Burrow if Samaje Perine can get a yard and the Bengals go and score at the end of the game, no one's Matt Stafford's not a Hall of Fame. So something completely out of Stafford's hands made him a Hall of Famer. That's what's dumb about using rings as a barometer.
I don't think you can use MVPs as a barometer.
It's not the barometer, but you can't take rings out of the equation. Absolutely.
No,
not.
you have to.
Absolutely not.
How you played when it mattered the most is very important.
I think if you have one ring and you have one MVP, exactly one, the ring holds more weight than Matt Ryan's MVP.
So it depends on the ring.
It depends on the ring. If you want
to Trent Dilfer ring.
Let's just be happy for Matt Stafford that they did win that game, because that touchdown he missed before he threw the game-winning touchdown, when I think it was Kupp was wide open in the back of the end zone. That would have ate him for the rest of his life. Dude.
That would have been on Twitter.
We can move on. We can move on after this. Stat Matt, Eli going in the Hall of Fame, man. You have to accept that. You go have to accept that. You cannot spell elite without Eli, man. You go have to. you go have to accept that. We will move on to now going back to the NBA, because much like us, probably a lot of sports fans out there, the NFL dominated between the NBA and NFL landscape this year. And now that the NFL is completely over, you might have some catching up to do. And if you do, with a podcast for you, because right now we're going to catch you up with the top things you need to know about this NBA season, or at least the first half of the NBA season as the All-Star break comes up. So the first thing we can start with is, if you look at the Eastern Conference, the top 3 teams of the Eastern Conference right now are what? The Heat, the Bulls, and the Cavs.
Yeah.
To a casual, that might even shock you as it is. The Heat are a little bit understandable. They have Jimmy Butler. They made a finals run a couple years ago. The Bulls had a lot of hype preseason. They're
top 3 is still high, but they had hype.
They're living up to it. The Cleveland Cavaliers might have you scratching your head a lot. And that's the team we're going to focus on, because they are a legit team in the Eastern Conference right now. Like we said, third, 35 and 22, been top 5 basically all season. And now, to really validate it, they have not one, but 2 All-Stars in Darius Garland and Jared Allen, who comes in as an injury replacement for James Harden. So props to that team right there, because it's not a fluke anymore. They got Kevin Love re-energized. Right. Kevin Love is back in the lineup now.
Right.
He was out. He was like, "Oh, y'all are good. I'm going to come play again."
Very impressive is who people regarded as the best player on that team. Colin Sexton got injured very early. They're doing this all without him.
Blessing in disguise.
You mentioned Garland, All-Star, huge for him. He's playing great. Only 20.1 points per game, and that leads this team in scoring. And I think that tells you all you need to know about the Cavs.
Yeah.
They're a very team. They're well coached. They're playing well together. I mean, your leading scorer has 20 points in today's modern era of basketball. That's crazy.
And they're making
in the 90s, that's kind of crazy for a team this good.
That's true. And they're making this thing work with the 3 big men lineup. That thing that's crazy that they're doing it with Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen all playing together on the floor.
Great defense. Crazy. And on top of that, we know what those guys give you: interior defense.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavs are the 3rd best team in terms of opponent field goal percentage, 6th best or 7th best against opponent 3-point percentage. I mean, they're really, defense is holding this team together, and the way they play so well together on offense. I wasn't a believer. I also wasn't a believer in the Bulls, who you mentioned. The Bulls flipped me earlier, but the Cavs have flipped me now. It's tough when you look towards the playoffs, but this is the conversation people have been having for 2 months, and they're not going away.
They can win a playoff series, and they flip me because they bought in defensively. And for a young team, when you buy in defensively, that's what impresses me, because young teams always buy in offensively. Look at the Hornets, a young team who bought in completely offensively, and they're starting to tailspin a little bit because they can't stop anybody on defense. When you buy in, have the 4th best defense in the league, holding teams to the 3rd worst field goal percentage when they're against you, that is what helps you and aid a young team on the offensive end, because there's going to be nights where the ball's not going in the rim.
Right.
But defense will keep you stable and keep you at the top. That's why I think the Cavs are where they are right now, because they've all bought in.
Not only are they holding their opponents to really low field goal percentages, they have the fewest fouls committed in the NBA. So they're being incredibly disciplined about how they're contesting shots and doing it without fouling, which is such a difficult through line to have.
what is interesting is, like, I think of this team a lot like when the Jazz, this current iteration of the Jazz, really started clicking with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. You kind of have Jared Allen is now an all-star. You have Darius Garland, who is an all-star. So, like, they have the pieces. Now, the only thing that I worry about with them is they don't, while they can get it really through anyone, they get offense from a lot of sources. In the playoffs, you kind of need, like, the guy.
Right.
And I don't know if that's Garland. I don't know if that's LeVert. They're going to find that out in the last third of the season. We haven't really seen it yet. But if they can figure that out, I'll be bought in for them going into the postseason.
It's tough. It's really tough to say. But, like, the Colin Sexton injury is almost like a blessing in disguise. It just opened up a map and a blueprint for the Cavs, at least for their young guard situation, because you had Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, who it looked like Colin Sexton was going to emerge to be the better of the two. He was kind of like their best player, the leader of their team. But, like, you could see Darius Garland had it. They just played the same position. Like, they're almost the same player. And then Colin Sexton goes down. You move Darius Garland completely to that one, and he blossoms to an all-star. And then it's like our team needs one thing. Now we need that wing scorer that we thought Darius Garland could be. And then here you go, Karis LeVert. Hopefully he plugs into that role, and I think the Cavs are so balanced, but I think that kind of, like, almost ostracizes Colin Sexton. That kind of pushes him out of out of the picture for the Cavs.
Well, then they could trade Sexton in the offseason for a piece of
big trade value, too.
This is actually, and you mentioned Garland, too, like, you mentioned even just having, like, the scoring ability. It's, like, also, like, 10 assists in the month of January per game.
Yeah, nice.
Only second to Chris Paul. I think it was slightly under 10, like 9.8, whatever. But what I love about the Jazz, and this is something that, it's obviously not plausible for a lot of teams in the state of the league, is this is the team that's had the most number one picks in the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
They've top 3 in lottery picks with really one every year besides the little stint LeBron gave them back from 15 to 17 or 18, whatever it was. And they just decided, no, we're going in. No, we're trading for Karis LeVert. We're super young. We're getting a lottery pick every year. Garland was a lottery pick. Sexton was a lottery pick. Evan Mobley this year was the third pick in the draft. And they said, no, screw it. We're good. We like what we have. Let's make our team better, which is awesome because they're not behind in draft capital, right? They have all their picks coming up. They have young guys. They have a core. They could rebuild this for 2 or 3 years, and they're just like, all right, we're going to take this quote-unquote superstar. Obviously, he's not in Karis LeVert, but he's shown flashes here and there. We're going to take a guy that can be the best player on our team in some world, and you're going to give it to us. We'll trade for that. I love teams going all in.
For me, the problem with the Cavs is there are 6 other teams I'd pick them to lose to in the playoffs in the East.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just like a rough luck of the draw kind of situation.
And it's tough. They're a young team. They're a good team. And if they played in a playoff format that was best of 3, they probably win a playoff series or 2. But they play in a playoff series format that's best of 7. So after you get past that first round, after you're done playing the Pacers or the Hornets or something in the first round, then you go have to play the Celtics or the Heat.
Which is also like there's going to be like really the East playoffs is going to be ridiculous when you think about it. We'll talk about some more teams, but like the Celtics could be like the 7 seed and like you wouldn't even bat an eye. Like, every team above them is better. And like it's going to be stacked.
No, you're so true. And I actually was about to say, and I'll say it, I'll double down on it. That like I don't think the Cavs stay 3. Like I think there's a playoff push that a lot of teams below them are going to make, and it's going to put them in that 4, 5, 6 category in the mud, in the thick of it, in the Eastern Conference. And then you might get lost in the sauce a little bit when these veteran teams start to figure it out and make that playoff push. But to be at the All-Star break, a top 3 seed, like when's the last time the Cleveland Cavaliers, outside of LeBron James, had a positive direction for their basketball team?
In the 90s.
Mark Price.
Right.
Yeah, Mark Price.
And that was a glass ceiling because, Jordan's over there. So, like, at some point, we don't get – but so far in this Eastern Conference, this is an exciting time for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, had to help you to that. The next thing that you probably should know about the first half of this NBA season actually just happened right before this All-Star break coming up. And that is the big blockbuster trade between the Nets and the 76ers. Y'all got your guy. We've been talking about it. But what we need to talk about is how both teams benefited from this deal. Like, I'm so tired of hearing Daryl Morey got finessed or he got hosed because he didn't. Or the Nets didn't get what they needed because they did. Like, both of these teams benefited from this trade. One may have got a little bit more than the other, but both teams addressed what they needed to and got rid of what they needed to. That's just as much. So we could talk about it because I think both of them got what they needed in this trade.
Yeah, but they got their Draymond. They have like your Steph Curry type point guard over there in Brooklyn. You got Kyrie Irving, who's equivalent. You got KD, who's on that great team, and then you have
Everyone knows Durant can't win without a Curry.
everyone, and you're unable to shoot, offensively challenged Draymond, who is good at passing and can play defense. That's exactly what Ben Simmons is.
Supposed to talk about how they benefited.
It's a great thing for them.
Yeah.
They have now an all NBA, all defense level player in Ben Simmons. And then also you have shooters, which I'm not going to say they were lacking, but adding Seth Curry is now a strength on strength. Drummond, I don't know how far that gets you against the Giannis's and the Embiids of the world, but it's a bench improvement. And then you also, which I think is a bigger thing than people realize, is like, things were not good there with Harden. They did not want Harden there just as much, maybe not just as much, but similar to how the Sixers did not want Simmons there. Harden was just showing up and playing badly. So I mean, on the Brooklyn side, I don't think it's anything but a win for them.
Yeah, but I don't think Daryl Morey got hosed.
No, he didn't.
Both teams got
That's
better.
definitely not.
Both teams got better. Like, the Sixers have a shot to win the title this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they really didn't before the trade. And people were talking about, the Sixers should have gotten like Malcolm Brogdon and a pick for Ben Simmons. Like, that's how bad it was at points.
Buddy Hield and
Harrison Barnes.
Yeah. Deals that people were mad at Daryl Morey for passing up because it had been so long.
Like we should get Sabonis as a positive thing.
Oh.
Like,
and we got James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
James
Talk to him,
Harden.
Matt. Talk to him.
And it's the perfect mesh with Embiid. And obviously it stinks to see Curry go. And Drummond we'll have to find someone on the buyout market for a backup center, like a Robin Lopez or like a Tristan Thompson.
You want to B-ball Paul?
B-ball Paul.
Not big enough. I like B-ball Paul. I really like B-ball
Love B-ball Paul.
Gotta say his name like that.
But both teams obviously improved because Ben Simmons does really fit the need of a guy who's going to go all out on defense in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy who's going to guard Harden if they play the Sixers in the playoffs. He's the guy who's going to guard Tatum or Brown if they play the Celtics. He's the guy. No one can guard Giannis, but he could shut down Middleton.
He's gonna stand in front of Giannis,
and like he'll be really good for the Nets until the second round of the playoffs hits.
Yeah, I mean, so
because that's the one thing we know about Ben Simmons, that he's a very good basketball player, and the second round of the playoffs hits, and he freezes.
Yeah. Can we also not forget that the point of a trade, and it really doesn't work unless both GMs and both like teams and owners think their team is getting better. Like, it's how it's supposed to work. Now, on paper, and I believe this, and I think a lot of people believe this, the Nets on paper got more back than what they gave.
Yeah.
No doubt. They got 3 starters and 2 first-round picks. At the Sixers, maybe they could have held a first-round pick. Whatever. That's not the goal of this team right now. Ben Simmons was not playing basketball for this team for the rest of his career, right? So instantly, just thinking about how the Sixers as a team this year get better, well, it was James Harden for Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. As a team, what you're going to get on the floor, they got better. Now, are they all in now? 100%. Mm-hmm. They're all in. I think Harden's going to come back, even though it was falsely reported that he had to sign his player option. Apparently he didn't, but it sounds like he's going to come back for next year. You have a little window now, 2-3 years. Really, this year can't be a total bust, but 2-3 years to make this work. But people saying that the Sixers got fleeced, blah, 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 blah. Yes, on paper, they gave more than they got back. That's fine. But for the team, for winning a championship, which is the goal of this team, they did not. We talked about how the Harrison Barnes and the Buddy Hield was the best offer on the table. Daryl Morey waited it out, and Daryl Morey won. At the same time, Steve Nash, as the Nets head coach, won, right? The locker room got better, and he's bringing in a bunch of new guys and more talent for the overall team than just one guy in James Harden. So both teams improved. That's how I see it. I think the Sixers, really, I hope it doesn't come back to bite him in the butt with the Nets, because it could. But
also it could come back.
They would have lost to the Nets in the playoffs if they didn't make the trade. They might lose to the Nets in the playoffs now. So I had a friend like that made that argument to me. It was, we made the Nets better than us. Like, they were already better than us.
No.
Like, we have a shot to win a title. We didn't before the trade. And it's really that simple.
Yeah, if you're the Sixers, focus on you first. Like, forget how it makes them. Like, we got James Harden. There's only about, at his best, maybe 5 or 6 players in the league better than James Harden. And maybe at his absolute peak, maybe 5 like better pure scorers in NBA history than James Harden. You have a chance to go get that man. You go get him. And by the way, let's not forget why he wants to come to Philly. Because right now you have probably the MVP of the league until Giannis's 50-point game, the NBA's leading scorer, and Joel Embiid to mesh perfectly with him. And then there's something to be said for addition by subtraction, man. Like, I think the Sixers headache was bigger than the Nets headache. The Nets headache could have worked itself out once if and when this vax mandate gets lifted in New York City. Because then Kyrie's there 100% of the time. Then you figure it out, and then winning cures all. The Sixers situation was never figuring itself out.
I gotta say, it might be a little awkward for Seth Curry to play with Ben Simmons. After Seth Curry,
I saw Drummond laughing it up with Simmons, but
they didn't play together though.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Seth Curry, I do consider.
Yeah. So it might not be, but it definitely could.
Winning cures all.
I do think.
I really do think it does.
We have to give Daryl props on this in terms of literally like the calculus that he's going through of why he's specifically not giving up Matisse Thybulle. You can put Ben on Harden. I have seen Jason Tatum and Trae Young do heinous things to Ben Simmons in a playoff series when he is guarding them. Ben Simmons is a phenomenal 1-5 defender, one of the best in the league for his versatility. He is an incredibly hard competitor on that end. If you put him on James Harden for 7 games, there will be trouble on the Brooklyn Nets defensive side of the ball.
We shall see.
Like you could clip this and play it back.
There we go.
We shall see
that series. Watch what happens in the half court.
I'm still terrified of Durant.
I should be. But we're gonna have to table the rest of the discussion for another time. We will and have to move on. The next thing that you need to know about this first half of the NBA season is the Boston Celtics are back. And Kyle, if you go all the way back to your big board at the beginning of the season, before we got into it, I said, I think off camera, maybe I said on camera, I said I'm very high on the Boston Celtics. I think the Celtics can do big things. And then they came out and stunk. and then they stunk for the entire season, pretty much until the last like 2.5 weeks. And now they look like a very good squad again. 9 in a row, only 3.5 games back of the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Lead the East in point differential, and they're the only team in the Eastern Conference that has a winning record against teams above a 500 record. So like they're the only team in the East that's good against good teams. And
the Celtics are back. They jumped to number 1 with that shellacking of the Sixers last night. They jumped to number 1 in 538's, title percent chance to win the title. I think they're up to 23%. I don't know how much of that is tied to win differential or point differential, which both like just went through the roof with that Sixers game. It kind of swings the pendulum a little bit. But, I mean, we've been saying this. They're not really that different than they have been when they were viewed back in 2018, 19, 20.
Since Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum
they've been
the same team.
Al Horford is back. Like
Daniel Tice is now back.
Yeah,
and swapping, just quapping threes on the Sixers like he is like Ray Allen. But they do. I mean, it's like the same song and dance with them. And ultimately, that stuff that boiled up in the beginning of this year with maybe Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that they're not really fit to be on the same team, on a championship team together. You can go back even before that. There was reports of like fighting in the locker room. Marcus Smart, Brad Stevens ends up leaving as the coach. Like
they also had to adjust to a new coach this year, and it looks like they finally kind of figured out.
Yeah, Ime Udoka I think is a good coach, but
if I see Nia along sideline at my games, I'm hooping. I tell you that much.
Yeah, I don't know with them. They are good, and I can see them ending up as a top 4 seed. As far as title contention goes, nothing really changes for me from years past. Like they should be one of the top 4 teams of the East. That's as far as I can go.
Yeah, I think they're a contender, honestly. But I also thought that in a couple of years past. And the reason is they did make this comeback as the team they had, and now they bring in Tice, who you know is going to get playoff minutes, a guy that's knows this, I mean, maybe doesn't know the system, new coach, but knows those guys, know how to play with his teammates. And they just made a great trade, in my eyes, to get Derek White for Josh Richardson.
Good acquisition.
Great acquisition, and I don't know what they have with getting guards at the trade deadline. If you remember, they did it with Evan Fournier last year. That didn't really work out. But, yeah, Derek White's having a breakout year. Another player that gives good effort on defense, not as much as Marcus Smart, but is Derek White, if you had to choose one part of his game that you really like, it's his defense.
And now he can learn from Marcus Smart, too.
And not to mention, he's breakout year on offense. I mean, Dejounte Murray has been giving this guy the ball and saying you can score on the Spurs. The Spurs are going to feel that, not that they're a playoff team. But I think the Celtics got much better at the deadline, and they were only sitting, 4.5 games back of first place in the East before the deadline? So I'm actually bought back in. That was a good call by you, James.
Mm.
I wasn't sold at the beginning of the season, but the way they have turned it around, because I love Jaylen Brown. I actually think Jaylen Brown's low-key better than Tatum, but that's for another day.
That's
for another day.
At points, I agree with them, but over this last stretch, I can't.
But just all around, like, they have the pieces to be a contender in my eyes.
But there are times, and like Jason Tatum was very much struggling. That slump might be over. The first 43 games of the season, 41% from the field, 31% from three. In the last 12 games, and there's 9 in a row, 50% from the field, 38% from three. And it's funny because even we on this podcast have talked about the Celtics, and we're like, if they want to win, Tatum and Brown have to go for like 30 or 40 a piece a game. And they're like, okay, bet. Like, if that's how we got to win, that's how we got to win. But that's sure. If you can keep that up, the Celtics are contenders. It's just if that's sustainable, because, yes, that's legit. The only way they've been winning. Now, Derek White provides a little bit more scoring, maybe some cushion on that. Who knows what Daniel Tice, if he plays like he did against the Sixers, that's a fourth scoring option for you. But for the majority of the time, it's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown going off, but they've been doing it. So
that's fine. And Tice is not even a starter. Robert Williams still starts. He's a really good player. Horford's in there. I mean,
the Embiid stopper.
Maybe
the Oppa stopper that is Al Horford.
I knew it would eventually circle back.
I'll take back my Brown over Tatum, though I think it's a lot closer than other people think. I just watched this man, Jason Tatum, at the beginning of the season miss so many game winners, and then anytime you log on to Twitter, Jaylen Brown hits a game winner, like the next game. So
I see where you're coming from. Yeah. Like there are times where he has like these crazy spurts, but overall, Jason Tatum like could go into to superstar status. But the next thing we'll move on to, the next thing you should know about the first half of this NBA season is not only is Klay Thompson back, but so are the Golden State Warriors for the last stretch of this season and just overall, because for the last couple of years, they've been down and out. They've battled injuries, Klay's injury, Steph's been in and out. They haven't been the same, struggled to even get into a play-in spot the last couple of years. But now they're absolutely just among the top teams in the West and in the NBA. The second best team in the West and have the second best record in the NBA at 42-16. Best home record in the league, 26-5. We know that's a hallmark of great Warriors teams. And since Klay has ramped it up, I like this. They can put this in there. Since he's ramped it up to 25-plus minutes a game, the Warriors are 7-2. He's averaging 18.8, so basically 19 points a game on 46% from the field and 43% from three. And he's closed out the past two Warriors wins with, I think, 17 in the fourth and 15 or 13 in the fourth. I mean, this is once Draymond comes back, I said it. Like, their core is back. All of a sudden, Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter. Like, the Warriors could be back.
It's disgusting that he's an all-star.
Let's gloss over that.
As much as I'm going to be
K-pop fans is how it happened.
It's true.
As much as I'm going to be sweating out the East players or the East playoffs because of the Sixers, I'm going to have so much fun with the West playoffs, just watching the Warriors again at full strength. We've not seen this in forever.
If Steph starts shooting like he used to shoot, because right now he's just like a very good shooter instead of like the greatest ever.
Right.
The West is over. Like if he goes back to shooting 43% from three, they're winning the West. And I'm sorry, James, but it's inevitable if Steph becomes the greatest shooter of all time in the playoffs.
Inevitable. It's a scary word.
What I will say is I think it's really just Warriors and the Suns in the West right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can look at it any other way. I know the Grizzlies. We're going to touch on the Grizzlies, so I won't go into it. I'm not a huge in them in the playoffs, but going back to the Warriors, I think Wiseman's coming back. Is that true? Wiseman's coming back.
He's been ramped up.
I saw him running. I saw a clip of him running last week, so we'll see what that means for them. But, I mean, they got their guys back. Curry, Klay, Draymond, fully healthy. This hasn't happened since KD was on the team.
And Wiseman, that's where I was going to go next, is that might be your 8 encounter. Now, I don't know how well he could hang with personally, I'm not the biggest James Wiseman. From what I've seen in college, I was high on him. In the NBA, I'm not, at least on the Warriors, I should say, I'm not sure about his fit. He's not, he has the potential to be, but at this moment isn't as heady and as attuned to the defense as a guy like maybe Andrew Bogut was during one of their title runs or JaVale McGee. He's better than those guys could be.
You got to have an advanced NBA IQ, I think, to fit on the Warriors. I think you really have
makes them.
He's not ready.
He hasn't played.
He's not
ready.
Right.
And when he played last year, he was bad.
And he barely played last year, really.
And I think a lot of that comes with reps. But, yeah, the Warriors are very reminiscent to the team that, was dominating the NBA. they got their guys back, they got their core back. Like they're all for familiarity. And like I don't know, like we've talked about it a lot. They've to me gotten a 2.0 version of the 7-3-9 team. Not as good, but like the same makeup, the same archetype of that team. They got it, and that's so
right.
God, that's so scary, man. That's so scary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think their bench matters, but their bench is worse than it was back then. But
You got Poole now coming on, or does Poole
starts?
He still starts.
He still starts, and they put Klay, bump him to 3.
Actually, maybe not. Now that Clay's back.
No, Poole
unless
goes to
they
the
put
bench
Wiggins to the 4.
I like Kuminga.
Kuminga's another great piece. Yeah,
they need to play him
He's
more.
hooping.
I saw a stat, and I don't know if it's still true about Kuminga. He is dunking more, like in terms of percentage of his shots, made dunks, more than Shaquille O'Neal did in like any season.
Right.
So he is literally dunking everything.
I guess I'm just thinking about like Iguodala. I don't think they have that guy off the bench anymore. But maybe all around they do make up for losing that and KD.
That's very true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's actually segues nicely. And the last thing you should know about this half of the NBA season is the Warriors might be back to their familiar ways, but the West as a whole looks very unfamiliar. We've talked about the struggles with the Lakers. They're not going away. 5-10 in their last game, 26-31 overall. They're pretty much a trade wreck. People are saying they should trade AD. It's a mess over there. Not only are they struggling, the Clippers and the Nuggets are pseudo struggling. They're like 4th, 5th in the West right
From
now.
what they've been. They're
Yeah.
6th in the West. They've been the 3 seed each of the last 3 seasons.
Right.
They're missing second and third best players.
Exactly. But the Clippers also banged up and also struggling. Now they're down their 2 best players. And then teams who have taken advantage of that have been the Grizzlies, obviously, who are 3rd in the West right now, and the T-Wolves, who are higher than expected. How about the T-Wolves, man?
Love the T-Wolves.
And a playoff spot, man. Like playing hard, playing for each other. Their big 3 of Cat, Ant Edwards, and D'Lo are all showing out. Ant Edwards, 22 points a game. Towns, 24 points a game. D'Lo, 19 points a game. Like, how about it, man? Like,
it's honestly like it's. I like to like. I think I like to dunk on them more than I like to kind of praise them. But it is nice to see now the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of finally. I remember reading an article back when like Simmons and Embiid were just drafted. Jokic was finally starting to come out, and it was like ranking the ranking the top young cores, and Minnesota was number 1 with Wiggins, Towns, and now finally they finally circled back. And they are the team, in my opinion, that can be like obviously the Grizzlies last year made some noise in the play-in tournament. But if we're talking about new blood in the playoffs, can make some noise, can maybe cause some problems for some higher seeds. They're the team that I'm looking at more than any other team, maybe even in the NBA, more than the Cavs.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all in on Anthony Edwards. If you remember big board, I had him number 1 over LaMelo, which people didn't love. Had him over Wiseman, which people didn't love. But he's came in and done exactly what he needed to do. He has like 3 40-point games this year, which is ridiculous. He came in to be a scorer and an athlete, and he's being exactly that. Is his defense not all NBA? No. But he's competent on defense because he's engaged on that side of the ball, which is all you need from him right now. So the fact that he's leading this team Cat's leading in points per game, but putting up 22 points a game and not afraid to take shots in the 4th quarter down the stretch. I think he has the most confidence of any young player in the league. It's ridiculous.
He's up there. He's up there for sure. And I'm impressed, and I like the way he's meshed with the rest of that young team because there was a point where him coming in, Anthony Edwards is such a spotlight player. He doesn't run from it at all. And why would you as the number 1 overall pick?
Neither does D'Lo.
But they have a former number 1 overall pick. And some, like, I was afraid that him coming into that would make Cat kind of look elsewhere. Okay, that's Ant's team. He's going to go. And for all we know, that could still happen. Like, that's just how the landscape of the NBA goes. But they seem to be playing for each other. They don't seem to be, like, he doesn't seem to be pushing Cat out. He seems to be, like, elevating and motivating Cat to play more because we have a young guy who wants to come in and play that kind of energizes him a little bit. And all I needed to see is, Edwards wasn't playing this past game, and Cat goes and wins them the game down the stretch. And there's a video that the Timberwolves posted on their social media of the entire walk through the tunnel back to the locker room. And Edwards is screaming and yelling for Cat. He's so happy for him that he went and got the ball and made the game-winning shot and put their team up. And I was like, that's the kind of team that succeeds. That's the kind of young team that plays for each other. They're like, and is genuinely happy that in his absence, Cat went and got him the game.
And like,
it's cool
Pat
to see.
Bev is just a great
huge
veteran presence to have.
Contract extension too. Hey, now
Malik Beasley's huge off the bench,
What
putting up
odds can I
13 a
get
game.
that Pat Bev and Chris Paul get into a fight in the first round playoff series.
Not good ones.
I think they make the playoffs. They're the type of team that you can just see getting bounced in the play-in tournament. I hope they avoid it. Probably
they could beat Memphis. I wouldn't predict.
I think so
it,
too.
But if they could get to 6,
they're literally
Memphis is 3. They could beat Memphis.
They're the Memphis of last year in my eyes.
Yeah, me too.
Memphis took game 1 off of the Jazz last year, the number 1 seed in Utah. Like I think this team can take anyone really to maybe not a whole 7-game series, but can fight in any playoff series in the West.
When Anthony Edwards got drafted, I was doing the Odyssey NBA podcast. We had on his coach, Tom Crean, and he was like, look, like Anthony Edwards, his ceiling could be like Dwayne Wade. Like he has the same build, same skills as Dwayne Wade.
I think that was my comparison in the big board.
What is crucial for him is, though, what he said is he has to be in a competitive, like good competitive basketball environment. Mm-hmm. That's what Minnesota is now turning into. So like I think
out of nowhere.
Right, exact complete script flip. And you know what? Good for them. Good for them because they really haven't had much to cheer about in a long time.
Gotta love it. That right there, in no order, were the 5 things that you probably need to know about this first half of the NBA season if you weren't paying attention. So I'm glad we got everybody caught up to speed because, you know, it's time for the NBA's basketball season officially now. No more football to lean on. No more Super Bowl. Got to start to get back into it. But, Kyle, I think it's time for
much, but Sidney Crosby scored his 500th career goal.
Had to be against the Flyers.
Against the Flyers. Only the second player in Penguins history behind all-time great Mario Lemieux. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know Crosby's this good, but he's not even the scorer as Lemieux was. He's more of like an all-around player, so hitting 500 is a huge milestone. Just want to give a congrats there.
Also incredible after he missed like a year and a half with a concussion, and people didn't know if he was going to play again. And he's played like 8 years after that, won 2 more cups.
And here's the thing:
as much as I hate it,
I don't think you still follow hockey. I don't think you care about hockey enough to hate on it.
But it's ingrained. It's not even something that I think about.
No.
It would be like
it's an all-time great achievement.
I love Zeke. Like, he got 2,000. I would boo Zeke if he was at the link and got 2,000 yards. I would boo him viciously.
Look at what you just compared it to. Because you care about football. You don't care about.
If I was at the Flyers game, he'd be getting booed.
If I was at the Wings game, I would boo the other team.
But I'm saying, you sitting at home to watch him get an all-time great achievement is like, just appreciate the achievement. Don't care enough about him to hate him. Of course, if you were at the game, you're going to.
I was at my buddy's D3 basketball. I was booing the heck out of the other team.
I'm booing Eddie up at the game, but like here, it's like, hey, this statue.
Maybe we give him a pass.
All right, loser at the Super Bowl and loser basically in the whole NFL landscape right now is Eli Apple. I wanted to bring this up. Gives up the game-winning touchdown after, talking all the smack after having a bad game in the AFC Championship. And we've seen fans, players, retired players, everyone's coming at this man Eli Apple right now.
Here's the thing. You got that. It's a talent to get the entire people who have no bone to pick with you at all to come at you on Twitter. That's
premier cornerback skill.
But here's the thing: you really talked before it all came to roost, right? You came at people who have already won a ring. Those are the people that can talk back. I actually have a problem with the Michael Thomases of the world and Devontae Adams of the world and Lamar Jacksons of the world coming at him because guess what he was playing in? He was playing in a game that none of y'all have played in yet. So don't come at Eli Apple because he's playing in the Super Bowl. I get it. I get
no
it.
Problem with it.
I get it that he wasn't the reason the Bengals were playing in the Super Bowl. But you're literally tweeting at a man playing in a game that you hope to one day be playing in your career. Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, they get to talk back. And the guys who played in the Super Bowl, they can talk back. They can laugh at him. Michael Thomas, I don't want to hear a peep, old slant boy. Like you were. I don't want to hear a peep out of you. Lamar, I don't want to hear a peep out of you.
Eli Apple shielding a lot of criticism from the Bengals defensive coordinator. When you're one-on-one with Cooper Kupp,
no help.
And your defensive coordinator, see Eli Apple one-on-one with Cooper Kupp, Super Bowl on the line. You got to call timeout. You just got to do it.
It's like the NBA.
This can't happen.
It can't happen. Someone dive at somebody's knees, take a penalty.
I got no problem with it because when you talk that much, you got to be able to receive it.
Exactly.
That's true.
He literally was instigating Like, this is why he's
But
going to maybe one day
but-
be
but- but for Michael
he
Thomas,
knows
it's-
what he set himself up for by tweeting before the Super Bowl. And if he didn't, he's
Right.
dumb and he should get the
He didn't-
criticism.
But he didn't tweet at every NFL wide receiver. He tweeted at McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, only the second best wide receiver. in the
Right,
league.
they can talk back. Michael Thomas just
Right.
waited until he failed to pile into somebody else's
Right.
beef, bro.
As
Like,
He's just hopping on.
like,
He's
you
hopping
ain't
on.
think-
Yeah.
get out of
As
here.
Michael Thomas is prone to do.
Lamar Jackson did it too. A bunch of other players that like Michael Thomas is just the one that I remember. There's a
Facts.
whole lot
Yeah.
of players, non-Super Bowl players, non-Super Bowl attendees who got in someone else's beef just to jump on Eli Apple because they know he can't defend himself
Well,
right now.
Michael Thomas was teammates. Maybe they had other beef.
I think
going
no. I
back.
think they
Well,
did.
Yeah.
both of them were
No, I
teammates.
think all of them had. I guess
Most of them had beef. Yeah, they were
Michael
Giants,
Thomas-
Giants
Michael,
players too.
Michael
They were
Thomas is
Giants-
probably burning this man Eli Apple in practice. Just wanted to
on
get that
slants,
out.
on quick digs. Sure,
Anything.
sure.
Anything. All right. Winner, Ben Simmons propaganda. It's back. We saw the video
Yeah.
of him shooting wide open, swishing
Yeah.
threes. No, it wasn't from Sixers Arena. It wasn't.
Are you sure?
Positive. He was wearing
from the
Nets
Bar-
gear.
it was from
Okay.
the Barclays.
I almost fell for it too.
I heard that
Yeah.
it was an old video, which would be the funniest.
No,
thing.
it
So I-
wasn't.
I mean,
He was wearing Nets gear, and
Yeah.
you can see the full video.
Go ahead.
But yeah, he's hitting wide open threes in the corner. NBA Twitter. Oh, look what Philly gave this guys. Look what they gave Brooklyn.
fools.
Boys, we've been through it before.
Yeah,
We've been through this one
Bamboozled
before.
3 times by that same video.
Jake, I've had to talk to you both. Don't do it as you're walking down that road. Don't do it. Here's what I say to all Sixers fans. Shh.
Let them find out the hard way.
Don't
Like
say nothing.
Like a little kid with a secret.
Yeah, chill. Let them do it. They gonna walk themselves down the same path they watched you walk down for years. They gonna go down the same steps. Probably walk in the footprints that you put out in that path. Let them do it. Let them do it.
It's really going to be so sweet when it comes.
Let
to
them do
Bruce.
it. If that happens, it's a very bittersweet moment for y'all. You should let them do
He's
it.
gonna come out shooting threes too. You know he is.
Probably.
I think
He's gonna
That's
shoot
your
under.
luck. That's
he-
your luck.
His cap is like 32% from three. I mean, let's be real.
So really quick, because I didn't get to squeeze this in with the Sixers earlier. Another conspiracy theory: Harden purposefully did not sign that so that he can sign for less. They moved Toby, and now you have a supermax slot. If he does not sign for the absolute, if he doesn't opt into that, and I do think next year would be the year to like maximize everything. So let's just Matt threw out his. I got to throw out mine. You guys, you're on the hook for a conspiracy at some point.
That's very much y'all two department.
Mine is the Nets are holding people out so they can be the lowest seed possible, so they have more away games in the playoffs.
Yeah,
than Kyrie
that's
can
another
play.
good one.
That's another
That's a
good
good one.
I mean, Band-Aids are about to lift, but is that for when it's
Possibly. Well, no, not for winners and losers,
Oh.
but that's not necessarily going to be.
very possible.
Yeah. And last loser is baseball. Pitchers and catchers were supposed to report
Unbelievable.
yesterday or Monday.
One of them.
Monday.
Yeah,
Didn't
Monday.
happen. Still in talks. I'm looking forward to the baseball season. I don't know why. I watched more Phillies games last year than since I was 8 years
We
old.
got the MVP.
Yeah.
Of course, the year we
I'm
get the MVP.
I'm hyped for it. I'm starting to enjoy baseball again after going through 5 years of not anymore, just because I stopped playing and just the Phillies were bad and
Mhm.
MLB as a sports tough to watch. We might not even get a season.
So it's so tough, and we're not even making progress. Every meeting they have, they say lasts
Not good.
7 to 10 minutes, and half of that is probably everyone just finding their seat and showing up and getting their coffee straight and stuff. It's really the sides looking at each other. You gonna change? No. You gonna change?
We've
No.
talked
Yeah. I hope
As long as they don't
keep
have
the
a-
car running.
As long as they don't have a Kevin Garnett. I don't know if you remember, there was reports that things were going well until Kevin Garnett started shouting at there's. And you should. I'll look it up and show you guys after the episode. But yeah, it was-
Kevin Garnett being an NBA PA negotiation. Imagine Chris Paul being like, "No, Kevin, no, Kevin, no, Kevin."
right, they just tried Kevin Garnett. They said they're not going to give him what he wants. You're in trouble.
Oh man! Well, you guys were looking forward to baseball season because
Yeah.
Summer baseball.
you made a good point. I don't want to go back to a time where no sports are on. We're all going to be watching World Cup qualifying.
I'm a big golf fan, thankfully.
There you
I
go.
know you guys aren't.
I'm not.
But something about having baseball and golf in the summer
I
with
like
nothing
playing golf.
else. And
Maybe I'll go play golf instead of watch sports.
I'll be having to watch World Cup qualifying and the U.S. Try to win the CONCACAF.
see, that's worse than golf for me.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. But that's all the time we have for this episode of Straight Facts. As always, we can get some shots up at the buzzer. Who's got something to say at the buzzer?
I just gotta give a shout out to Shaun White's career, who just ended.
Oh, I love it.
I didn't
love
know if I should put him in as a winner or a snowboarder.
Oh,
'Cause he lost in the event.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
he
that's
finished fourth in his last attempt at a medal. Greatest snowboarder in the history of the sport. Unfortunately, he was dealing with like a little leg injury, just kind of gave out on the last ramp, which caused him to fall. But he inspired. So he is literally the Tony Hawk of snowboarding. They made a video game called Shaun White Snowboarding because of Shaun White.
That game was fun.
Iconic status.
On the little
and his red hair and his Mountain Dew interview. He was just a legend, and props to a legendary career.
I'm talking about Mountain Dews, babe. Never forget it, man. I'll never forget it.
That game was fun too. Remember those boards that the Wii had for Wii Fit?
Yeah.
That's what you played on, so you could like balance on the snowboard.
Dope. That's dope. You got something to say at the buzzer?
No, that was it. You just heard it. The only thing I have to say, I don't know if you guys have been playing this game, Wordle. You ever heard of Wordle?
Yeah,
I've been
all
heard
over
it.
Twitter.
Yeah,
I heard it. Jake, naturally, it's the latest craze, so.
I know you're not. Well, I just want to know if you heard it. I'm a beast at Wordle.
I'm a beast too.
I can pull up the
You
stats.
have an extensive vocabulary.
I got like Giannis going to the basket. Like, you can't stop me getting it in 3-4 attempts. Like,
Love it.
Have you ever missed one completely?
There's been one time that I missed it completely.
I never have.
Yeah, see, I was actually distraught about it. I was
have.
distraught. I had just woken up. I was looking for something to do, and I was still out of it.
I miss
Bad
him a
guess.
lot.
It's like
I
Justin
miss him a
Tucker
lot,
missing
though.
an extra point.
It
Like,
was.
So it's one word per day, and you like.
And you
And you get
essentially
6 tries.
right. You get 6 tries. You guess the letters, and it'll tell you if a letter is in the word, if it is in the right place.
So it's Hangman.
In a way,
Kinda, but you're guessing an entire word.
If it's Hangman,
we might have
It's
got
not
it.
Hangman.
if it's Hangman,
It's not Hangman, but
it's Hangman to me. And I'm gonna go dominate this thing. But what I have to say real quick at the buzzer, I actually have 2 things to say, but the first one's really quick. They actually do have to center around the James Harden and Ben Simmons trade. The first thing, really quick, what I want to say is mental health is real. Mental health is real in athletes. It's real in men. And I don't think it's fair, and I think it's just as disgusting to pretend to be an advocate on mental health and use it as a way to bash Ben Simmons. I see a lot of people in the media, a lot of people talking on Twitter, on Instagram, where have you, where I've never seen you or heard you speak up for mental health before, never heard you be an advocate, but all of a sudden now you want to use it as a way that Ben Simmons lied to the Sixers and stuff. There are plenty of reasons to bash Ben Simmons and what he did with the Sixers without touching his mental health. So I don't think we need to speak on it. The second thing, and the main thing I want to focus on, is I don't understand how Ben Simmons has become the darling of the media and James Harden has become the bad guy. What?
He doesn't wear the red, white, and blue. They don't have a reason. He's not part of the narrative anymore.
No, that's the first time I've ever actually seen it happen. Yeah, I thought you guys were really just crazy, but as soon as Ben Simmons got away into Brooklyn, all of a sudden, he's the extremely good player and the blessing for the Nets. And now all of a sudden, James Harden was rolling his eyes in the huddle when they were calling plays for KD. And he was, who rolls their eyes when KD gets a play called for him? That's Kevin Durant. Of course he gets a play called for him.
And they played together in Oklahoma City.
I don't. So now all of a sudden, that James Harden being the scapegoat, being the bad guy, let's not forget national media, Sixers media. Don't let it fool you. Let's not forget the crybaby circus that Ben Simmons pulled to get out of the Sixers. Let's not forget that Philly was James Harden's first destination to begin with. He gave the Nets a try, but I don't blame him for being like, man, I knew Kyrie wasn't going to be able to play. I knew he was going to stay. I'm going to Philly.
My favorite is people, James Harden's come up short in the playoffs. Like, have you looked at Ben Simmons?
He gets farther than Ben Simmons. Yeah, he might come short, but it's farther than Ben Simmons.
Look, we love Chris Paul here, but if Chris Paul stays healthy, they beat the best team of all time in the playoffs. They beat the best team of all time in the playoffs. James Harden goes to the finals. But this is great strides.
No, it was alarming. It was
he's
overnight.
I know where you're going with this. He's been giving me spurts of this all week. James is about to start rooting for the Sixers low key a little bit. I see it.
I've been trying to get him on board for years.
And I was the Harden trade. You saw how excited I was for that trade. I think that's gonna be the best duo in the league. I hate the fact that Ben Simmons gets let off coddled and easy for what he did. I saw it firsthand.
The cycle begins.
Wait till Embiid plays against this man on the court, dude.
Whoa.
Embiid is going.
Whoa, we don't have to get into a larger discussion, but that was just my at the buzzer. It's I see it, y'all. I've never seen it before, and I see it now, and it was very alarming. But that's it for this episode of Straight Facts. This was a really good one, man. I really enjoyed this one. I hope y'all did too. Shout out to everybody out there listening. Shout out to Up On Game and everybody associated with it. But for my guys, Jake Galley, Kyle Sheehan, and Stat Matt,
I'm not doing it.
I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight
for
up.
whoever wants to say it.
Dude,